Welcome to the Past, Present, and Future podcast. So I have a couple of different topics I'm going to be going over today, but today we're just going to be having a little debrief regarding the steps I personally took to pull myself out of a very dark place mentally. And these are just some specific methods I use to optimize my full potential. So we're going to jump right in and just start with embracing the unknown. And what really helped me was just the knowing that tomorrow is a new opportunity. And we as humans have been taught to always have a plan, but sometimes life just throws things at us and they're just unpredicted. And sometimes we're just not well-rounded in all of the proper steps to take with certain situations, and that's okay, Nobody is perfect at life. But I think a thing that holds us back collectively is definitely the fear of uncertainty. And that fear just holds us back from a lot of gifts that the world has to offer us. We also tend to find a lot of comfort in the mundane. We get really comfortable in these negative thought cycles and these negative ways of just living. And fearing the unknown makes you play it safe. And it makes you become attuned to just the bare minimum, when you could be reaching your full potential, because everybody has the potential within them to elevate themselves energetically, spiritually, and mentally at any given moment. But I think it really starts with being vulnerable, because being vulnerable allows space for new outcomes and essentially your growth. You really can't have growth and elevation if you can always predict the outcome. You really just become stagnant in this energy, and you become stuck in old versions of yourself when you create a new version of yourself every day. And your brain cells are actually wired to do the same actions to create a predictable future, which only keeps you in this never-ending loop. I think another step for me was working on transcending shame. For a lot of humans, there is a deep-rooted shame within all of us, which only holds us back from putting yourself in certain outlets that would benefit you, or putting yourself in new situations because you're scared of the unpredictable. When in the long run, these new situations are essential and key to your evolution as a human. Shame occupies a lot of space in the average person's brain. And a lot of shame is accompanied by false perceptions that others have of you, which are almost never true. But I wanted to touch on how shame and guilt kind of go hand in hand, and there's a difference between them. Guilt is more so the regret of a situation or an outcome, and you just wishing that you could have changed how things went. But shame is the identification and the acceptance of that guilt. So a lot of inner growth starts with not accepting that as permanent, and just taking these situations that happen to you with a grain of salt, because they won't dictate the rest of your life. I think that a lot of shame is derived in early childhood, these developmental years and stages of our life. So that's why I've been working a lot on showing love to my inner child, and I think that everybody should be showing love to their inner child daily, if possible, because these inner children live within us and they will never leave us. Even though we create a new version of ourselves every day, we still have that little child in the back of our head who is just wanting better for us and who's looking for us to make them proud. I think that a lack in physical and spiritual resources only corroborates the story of deficiency. It corroborates the story of this lack mentality. And when, people are put in certain situations where they're financially inept or spiritually inept, it creates this kind of mold for how we assume the rest of our life to go, even though we all have potential within us, and everybody may have the same opportunity to change their physical surroundings, but we always have the choice to choose what goes on inside our body and our mind, and in turn our soul. I think it's really easy to fall into a judgmental attitude when we are stuck in this lack mindset, and we just have these negative connotations that we're now placing on every single aspect of our life. I really think a way of taking ourselves out of that lack mindset is the power in consistency. So myself, I've been working on just giving into flow and not obsessing over healing. If my body's asking me to go to sleep, there's that fear of this unproductiveness and what I was supposed to get done that day. But I find that when I do listen to my body, I have a lot more positive outcomes. For example, the other night, I was just feeling so low energy, and I know that my body was just begging me to take a nap. And I ended up sleeping for 11 hours straight, and I did not wake up one time during the night. So I really feel like that's just an example of how listening to your body can just be so beneficial to you in the long run. There is this quote by J. Cole, and it's, "Which is more important, getting or letting go?" So I feel like sometimes we're stuck in this need to consume and receive from others around us, from people, and we're focused on what we are gaining out of an interaction rather than just the actual presence and being within that interaction. My mentor has been talking to me a lot about Dharma, which is basically your life's purpose. He told me that there's 2 most important days in your life. The first day is the day that you're born, and the second day is the day you find out the reason you were born. You need to make sure that your Dharma is personable to you and only you, and that you're not just doing things for others and for others' validation, because in the end you end up doing something that you're not even happy with, and you don't even like doing it, But I find that it is a lot easier to be consistent with things that you're passionate about personally, because then it doesn't even feel like work. And I know that it takes a lot of trial and error, just finding yourself and finding out what works for you. But the more self-awareness that is unlocked, the more your personal why becomes clear, and you start seeing things with clarity. You start realizing why you went through the things you did, because they brought you to this point. And the purpose in life is just growth and evolution. It's not this unrealistic goal that you have to reach by a certain time. And I know a lot of humans struggle with feeling like they're falling behind, with this need to compare themselves to others. But you as an individual cannot be replicated. You cannot be duplicated, and you have to start accepting yourself to realize the full potential that you personally carry. I think that there's a lot of cohesiveness between the past, the present, and the future, because your past determines your present, while your present determines your future. A big lesson for me was learning that my past does not dictate how my present has to go. Although it may be the reason that I'm in this present moment, it doesn't have to rule the motive or the theme of my presence. And I know that you can work a lot on your present self to in turn have better outcomes within the future. For me, that just started with picking up my journal. And from that day, it just was this graph of just growth that only moves up. You can fall down a couple times, but you will only continue to grow. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast.